they had a pay-per-view yesterday, and one of the big matches was Sasaki versus Endo, and it's like a really big thing, at least to me, because they were in the same faction together in Damnation, and Sasaki turned on everybody, so it's like the final match of their feud, and everybody thought that I don't know, it's kind of spoilers, but everybody thought that Sasaki was going to be in Super J Cup, but in the end, it ended up with them reconciling. So I'm very happy about that.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask. My follow-up question was going to say, and how does that make you feel? And you said,
Very, very
yeah,
happy because
very
I was
happy,
very sad that they were fighting because they're my favorites. So
right? And never feel ashamed for having that feeling because that's what we're trying to do in wrestling. I remember my buddy wrestling with my buddy John, and he was an exotico, in lucha, and he was a face, and I was the heel. And we'd do these battles, and we'd wrestle week in week out here in LA. And one day, finally, he wanted to shake things up, because he was always the exotico face, and he wanted to be the exotico heel. And so he turned on his partner that night, and there were women. There was nothing about the crowd of 300 people in like South Central Los Angeles, and there was like a front row of women that were bawling and crying and crying. How could John Angel was his name as a wrestler? How could Angel turn on his partner and go rudo on everybody? And I could not believe my eyes. Almost, I think we were like kind of like dumbfounded. Like, why the fuck is she crying? Like, just because we get so wrestling is it's all a show now and all an act. But man, just you will drive these emotions on these people, even when they know that wrestling is an act. But how does it make you feel, right? How many times we cry at a movie? We know it's not real. It's a movie. We're in a movie theater. We're watching it, but it makes us feel something. That's what pro wrestling does, and that's why people say, "Man, kayfabe said it's not dead." We watch movies that make us cry, so the wrestling can actually make us feel something, and that's what our goal is to try to do. And so that you said, "Hey, man, when they were feuding, I didn't like that, and when they got back together, it made me happy." Be prepared for the storyline to keep going. Be prepared for the storyline to keep going. It might take a swerve for you, right? As soon as what does Roddy Piper say? As soon as I have all the answers, they change the questions, or I change the questions. This is how he says it, and that's what pro wrestling is. So, all right. Anybody else with a question, in general about the class, about anything that you watched, how it made you feel, and if you, Alfredo, I just saw your hand. You got to, let's go on unmute. Let me see if I can do it. I think you might have to do it yourself.
Got
There
it.
you go. We can hear you.
I'm not sure if you saw the Walter match, the NXT UK this
No,
week.
no, I have not seen it. I definitely have heard about it. It is on my list to watch. What did you think about it?
It was one of the. It was. I think they said it's a hardcore match, no weapons. It was just straight slaps and the most hard hitting. It was a fight. It wasn't even a match at that point. Uh, some of it was. Uh, it seemed dangerous, but they went all out to the max where there was no. It wasn't. There were no like fake kicks. It was just I'm gonna kick you in the face, and that's what it is. I was wondering when you get to that point, you have to speak with your opponent and say, "Let's go all out. Don't bitch out. Let's just go all out." Or do you have to just wait for the storyline to get to that point?
So you're gonna know. Sometimes you get an opportunity to know your opponents. You know, sometimes you'll get in a match with me, and I'll tell you straight out. This is why I actually tell all my wrestlers, on the matches that I agent. I tell them this. I love to lay it in as a wrestler. I really love to lay it in. I like to feel like I've been hit. I want to feel like I've been in a wrestling match. I don't mind if you lay it in a little bit. I don't mind if you lay it in a lot. I'd rather you kick. This is a little crazy, stupid talking. I'd rather you kick me in the teeth and miss me by a mile and make wrestling look like shit. That's my 1994 mentality. Um, but I think you start learning and you get to the level like so now. Okay, we'll go back to this match that I agent yesterday with Heather Monroe and Miranda Elise. Came to a point. Heather slapped the shit out of Miranda. I was, oh shit. I looked at Mongo. You think there's some heat there? And I don't know. And then Miranda came back and slapped her, and they kind of did a little slap spot back and forth, and they were really hitting the shit out of each other. And so they went to the back. Heather goes, hey, I kind of got you on that slash. She was like, and then Miranda said, hey, that's okay. So I just I gave it to you too. I gave it to you the same way. And there was no animosity there. It was kind of like, let's give it to each other. We have this understanding. And I mean, I taught Heather, like, hey, you're going to get kicked in the teeth. You're going to get smacked. You're going to get hurt. It's part of professional wrestling, So I think that it comes to that point that if you go out there, you'll know your opponent. You might be friends with them. You might have come up with them. Usually, people that you train with, and Joe, and I think Hyde's in here. People that you train with, and they'll back me up on this. That people that you train with, you tend to go harder on. I'm pretty sure Jericho and Lance Storm go a little harder on each other than anybody else. You know what I mean? Because they came up together. They came up the same. The same thing goes for the wrestlers or that'll be in your class. You kind of go a little bit harder on each other. Now, keep in mind, I remember one time, same thing like Heather and Miranda. I was wrestling Brian Kendrick, and I slapped him, and I felt my hand, and as soon as it came like this close to his face, in my head, I cringed. I go, oh shit, it's coming way too hard, and it's like there's just this. I couldn't stop my hand. I just smacked the shit out of him, right? And so he fired right back, and it really built an emotion. And it got to the back, and I told him, same thing like Heather said. I said, hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you that hard. He goes, that's cool, but I hope that it was coming back just as hard. Oh, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, man. I'm not one that just wants to hit you and not get hit. There also comes a time, maybe I'm wrestling you, Alfredo, and maybe you shut down in the middle of a match. And I'm like trying to be the man over here telling everybody I'm Ric Flair, man. I can wrestle a broomstick and make it look great. And I just get you shutting down, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck do I do? Don't be surprised if I smack you right across the fucking face or chop the shit out of you. I like the idea of waking you the fuck up. Hey, I understand. I got one or two things that are going to happen when I smack the shit out of you. And I'm hoping one thing happens. I'm hoping you wake the fuck up and say, fuck this motherfucker, and smack me back. And now I can get some emotion out of you. Or I risk the chance also of you completely shutting down. Of you completely shutting down. So I never try to show any anger in the middle of the ring, but I might smack you, but I won't show anger. I say, come on, let's go. We got to go. You know what I mean? Wake up, get with it. But you're gonna wrestle some people. I wrestled my friend Luke Hawx, and I locked up with him, and it felt like he put me in a waist lock, and I felt so uncomfortable. I felt in the lockup, I felt uncomfortable. He put me in a waist lock, and I just said, "You're being way too light on me. This is making me feel so uncomfortable." So, but what I did, as opposed to just smacking the shit out of him, I said, "Okay, this is how he works." So I went extremely light. You wrestled John Cena. And if he's extremely light with you, you better not be fucking rough with him. He's going to get you fired. I don't know. Maybe he is, right? Or he's got a major amount of influence. So he's going to go back and say, this guy's fucking trying to hurt me out there. All right, get him the fuck out of here, really. So that's how I tend to wrestle. I tend to gauge off how the lockup is. If you lock up with me strong, then I feel, okay, we can go a little strong. I'm never going to twist your arm out. I don't even really want to. I don't smack anyone in the face. I have probably chop you these days. I don't want to smack anyone in the face. And as a matter of fact, Alfredo, that's the 22-year-old chaos that would probably smack you in the face or chop the shit out of you. 42-year-old chaos is going to say, Alfredo, what's going on, man? I need you to wake the fuck up. Let's go. I'm going to pick you up, put you on my back, and say, I'm going to carry you home with me. That's the dad in me now talking. Like, I'm going to get you home. You're going to get out there with a 22-year-old chaos, and he's like, fuck you. I ain't got to take care of you. You better show. He's going to have that La Parka moment. You better show the fuck up prepared. You're not fucking prepared. And so now I'm going to beat the shit out of you. So there are wrestlers that will do that. And anyone that ever tried to do it to me, it was like, man, I used to train with my Uncle Supreme, and he used to, right, from one, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, so we'd get smacked the fuck up. We would smack each other up. And then at the same time, I was like half his size. And so if he wanted to power bomb, he would power bomb me, or any kind of suplex. Everybody would do it on me. So I kind of felt like that put some armor on. Like, well, I've been beat up by Supreme week in, week out. Not only Supreme, but everybody else that was there. So if anyone ever tries to beat me up, I feel like, because I don't even feel like you're trying to beat me up. I just go, oh, does he not know how to work? Does he not know how to pull a punch? Okay, well, that's okay. I'm used to it. And that's just something that you're going to have to probably even cut your teeth in. And maybe someone like Sage or Hyde can actually add to that about people being rough with you in the ring, or the matches being rough as they are. If you guys ever been in any rough matches that you liked, or maybe even been in any rough matches that you were like, I did not like that shit and I wanted to fight somebody. Have you guys ever had that experience, Hyde or Sage?
I could definitely add in a few bits there.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said. So, if you're trying to get something out of them, I've had that experience where it's like, okay, that was a stiff punch. They're gonna give me a stiff punch back. Oh crap, this is getting a little too stiff, and I don't want to get to this point. And you kind of end up like ducking it and get out of it, kind of working through it. But it can get to that point where it's like, okay, this is supposed to be a match. We're supposed to be working with each other, not beating the shit out of each other. But I mean, if you are working still, I don't know, it's not very fun to take those super, super fucking stiff punches still from the other person. So, I mean, that's not too fun to kind of keep it at that level if you can avoid it, you know what I mean, and work with each other as you should. But yeah, I've definitely experienced those where you're like, okay, I'm not trying to just have a full fist fight in this ring.
I think that's probably the most unprofessional thing that you can do in professional wrestling is have a fight breakout. It makes it incredibly uncomfortable for everybody in the back. It makes it incredibly uncomfortable for everybody watching. There's just a different realm of a real fight and a pro wrestling match. And so I think like the farthest that I would say is acceptable in taking is shot for shot. You know, we've seen Braun Strowman and it was a Brock Lesnar, and I think Brock Lesnar just straight out punched him because Braun kneed him in the head. Being a professional, Brock just throws that punch and says, "Lighten the fuck up, kid," or whatever he told him. Being unprofessional is Brock wanting to fight him because he stiffed him with a knee to the head, right? So that's you never, right? Just like Sage said, you never want to take it to that point of a real fight. You want to fight, finish your fucking match, go to the back and fight all you want. You know what I mean? Like really, fight all you want. At the end of the day, if you want to fight, go to MMA. This is pro wrestling. Honestly, I love getting hit. I love taking hits. I love feeling a chop and having the chop marks all over my chest. At the end of the day, pro wrestling is an art, and you should be able to do it without putting any damage on any of your opponents. You know, we do it because we like to get rough. It pumps us up, and plus, you can't lighten up a bump. So at that point, I start feeling just give it to me. Let's produce a great performance. So, how about you, Heidi? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, in that case, like I just engage. Like you can tell when someone like stiffs you, and it's like, oh, this fucker just stiffed me. Like, okay, I could give him a fucking like receipt, like or if they don't hit you in like the pocket, like if they hit me in the ear, that like pisses me off. So it's like, okay, like the cutoff, I'm gonna fucking like clothesline fucking rough. But yeah, I don't really try to get to that, but I know that there's going to be like times where that's going to happen and you can't fucking back down. And then it's going to have to get to the point where like you need to fucking like take them down. And, you know, like what Robbie says, like, hey, you trying to work or you trying to fucking shoot? Yeah. And if they're shoot, then you fucking shoot. If you're trying to work, then okay, let's fucking get back to work. But I mean, that and Cam, he fucking stiffed me and I fucking stiffed him back. And like that whole fight was like, I was fucking hard. That was like the first time I ever like let my emotions out, but I was safe. But I was like, okay, motherfucker, like I'm gonna club shit out of you, like hard and shit. But
that's what you need.
Yeah,
You're like, okay, motherfucker, let's do it, right? Let's fucking do it, right? I think a lot of times, too many wrestlers today go out there just happy to be on the show, and just going out there doing their performance or their choreographed perform. I like going out there, bring it, motherfucker, right? Like Mae Young, bring it, motherfucker. That's a famous line from Mae Young. You should look up the story, or I'll post it for you guys. Um, but yeah, it's 100%, and you're gonna feel that. You get punched in the fucking ear, and it's to me, I'm not automatically I want to punch you back. I when I got a chance, I got a chance to be in a battle royal once with Honky Talk Man. We were at the gathering of the Juggalos, wrestling for the clowns, and everything was beefcake, and all these old 80 wrestlers were in there, and so Honky Tonk Man was in there, and so I got in the ring with Honky, and I just started unloading chomps on him, just chopping the shit out of him, and I was like, bring it, bring it. He went, fuck this shit, and walk to the other side of the fucking ring. And I think that's what I would do today. I get hit in the ear, I'm gonna grab you, and just like Hyde said, I'm gonna take you down and put you in a chin lock. Don't swing on me anymore, please. Don't hurt me anymore. you know. But I think when you're young, you got a little bit more fire in you. And believe you me, when I had to wrestle Jake at the beginning of this year, he brought it and really tried to beat me up. So I had to really bring it back and really try to beat him up. But I think it makes for a better match, So, any other questions that you guys have before we get started today? Let's see. All right. Okay. All right. So, and then I'll get around. I know there was some social media questions. I'll get around onto the group page, and I'll go ahead and answer them for you on that. I'll put the like I said, I'll put the notes. I'll put my notes in the group, and then followed hopefully about 2.5 hours later, followed by the unlisted YouTube link. I put that. You guys could share it among each other. You can share it in your own message, but just don't post it to share it for public use right now. It probably will go for public use soon, but not right now. So we'll keep that down and just have you guys do it. And I know also I actually want to talk to you about. So this month we're going to run into Thanksgiving, and so I believe it's the 27th or so, and that we're definitely going to be taking that day off. And then we're just going to come back and do it on Monday. We'll still get our 18 classes in. It'll probably be 6 weeks in a day or so as we finish. But the question I wanted to ask is Wednesday the 25th. Let me tell you, if anybody turns into a promoter, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I believe, is an incredibly awesome day to book a show. Your family is already in town, and there's nothing to do. Everyone's waiting to wake up the next morning, cook some turkey, and watch some football. The night before Thanksgiving, it's like it's just everyone's sitting around. But I wanted to ask everybody, and you don't have to answer now, but I'll probably post the question in the Facebook group. But I want you to think about it. Do you guys want to do a class that Wednesday night? I want to make sure, is everyone going to be here? If half the class is going to be out of town, maybe we'll just take the day off. If everyone is going to maybe be able to be out of town, but still let's do it mobile, that's fine. We can still do that. So we'll take a vote and see what everyone's doing. If people do have to miss the class, and I know that there's some people that just have work or school or something in the way that's going to make them miss maybe a day or two of our online class. What I've thought about doing is, if it's going to be maybe consistently doing, and I know that you're not trying to miss the class, is maybe we can schedule something in the morning, about 9 or 10 a.m. or so. I do have someone in Abu Dhabi who I spoke to actually this morning because he missed the class yesterday or on Monday. So I think maybe about 9 or 10, see if that time works. Obviously, I can go one-on-one with you guys pretty much at any time. So if you do miss the class, I want to make sure that you actually not are just watching the video, because you could just go to the YouTube channel and watch all the videos right now. I like that you have the opportunity to be interactive with me and maybe ask me questions or steer how you want the conversation to go. And I think that's the most important. Okay. So let's think about that. We're obviously going to take Thursday, Thanksgiving off, but let's talk about Wednesday if everyone's going to be there or be available, So I know a bunch of families are going to come in, but I don't know. COVID might make everything different. So, all right. Okay, here. Now that we actually have time, I don't have to rush this one here. So, okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is storytelling in pro wrestling. And I really want to break it down. And the reason I want to break it down for you is because I always would ask my veterans as I would come up, and I came up very unconventionally. I didn't have a school or even a trainer that taught me all, like hold to hold or stuff like that. But I would always ask all my veterans about, psychology, and what's this psychology that they talk about. I mean, if I think for the first couple of years, being 14, 15, 16, 17 years old in the business, I would just smile. And I think as a young kid, I didn't even know what psychology meant in general, let alone what wrestling match psychology meant, I had no clue, so I would just smile and I wouldn't ask any questions, and I'd do it opposite of what I told you guys to do. Ask questions. If you don't know something, ask. Right? I didn't know what kayfabe meant, and I would go along and smile and just, okay, I don't know, but so ask questions. But I would always ask my veterans, what is match psychology? Oh man, and when I was coming up, like the business was incredibly different than it is today. It was very secretive. Kayfabe was completely around. I remember wrestling in Nashville and talking to my opponent and getting yelled at. And I was like, what is this? I talked to my opponent in LA all the time. And they were like, you wrestled him today. You can't be outside talk. I was like, we were around back. You still can't be outside talk. I got yelled at, so I'd never do that again. If we're going to talk, we'll be inside in the locker room. So kayfabe right is still alive. So I would always ask my veterans about the storytelling and the match psychology in wrestling. And they would always tell me, kid, you just one day get it. Oh, geez. Okay. And I would go, okay, just one day I'm going to get it, right? I'll get like, how the fuck are you going to get it if you're not going to study it, right? Fast forward to today, I break down match psychology. And now even in the online class, we even take it a step further and just talking about storytelling, because that's really what the match psychology is. So what we want to do is, right, it's as simple as it sounds. Your match is a story, and you could tell it many different ways, right? Just like we can watch a movie and see a story being told many different ways, right? We have regular stories, go from start to the end, right? Climax, all this, that, and the other. There's also stories like Pulp Fiction that start in the middle of the movie, go to the end, come back to the beginning, go back to the middle, and then it all comes together, and our brains for some reason are okay with it, and we can follow it, So I always like to tell people, you could tell your story many different ways. There is no right or wrong way in professional wrestling, and I believe that to be all the way through, right? Does it look good? You ask yourself this: does it look good? Does it make sense? Is it safe? And if you can say yes, yes, yes to all of it, you can do it, and you can evolve in professional wrestling. So that's why I say there's no this is the only way to do professional wrestling. I never tell people. I tell people this is how I teach people how to do a body slam. Big Show might teach you a different way. I don't know. This is how I do it. And there's many different ways. So always keeping that mind open, right? So there's many different ways in pro wrestling to tell that story, right? So, but how do we actually tell a story in pro wrestling? So I try to take it all the way back, and let's just go back to basics, right? 5 elements of a story. So if you guys already know about storytelling, you already know about the 5 elements of a story. Okay. You have character. Right. Of course, the 2 wrestlers, the 4 wrestlers, the 20 wrestlers in the battle royal, those are the characters. Okay. And who are you? Right. You're maybe, hey, I don't know. Maybe you're not one of the characters. Maybe you're the referee, or maybe you're not the main character. Maybe the referee or the commentator, the announcer, whatever the case is. Right. You are the character that should be able to establish your personality early on in the match, if not in the entrance. Okay. And so ask yourself, who is the main character? Right? Are you the main character? Right? In your head, I'd like you to believe that. Even if you are playing the villain or the side character, believe that I'm going to steal the show. And so I want you to think about that. Who is the character? I think it's very simple, right? Me, I'm the character. 5 elements to a story. Element number 2 is setting. This is like too easy, right? What's the setting? The wrestling ring, right? Or maybe the locker room. But for the most part, the fucking wrestling ring. And when I agent these matches on Tuesday night, I tell everybody, and I might even fib a little bit. I say, hey, the lighting on the outside is a little shitty. Keep it all in the ring. I know you guys are so creative to keep it all in the ring. Keep it all in the middle of your setting. I love when people are creative enough to keep it in the ring. That doesn't mean don't dive, but I hate when people go all the way around and fight. I used to do that. Fans love it though. When I wrestled New Jack, fans loved when I wrestled all and fought all the way around the arena. They love that. So, but I like to tell people, keep it in the ring in your setting, right? Okay. So what's the third element of telling a story? The plot, right? You should have a very clear beginning, middle, and end, right? What is your plot? There's so many different, right? There's so many different plots. When you really try to break it down, we do a couple of them in pro wrestling, right? But there's so many different ones. The quest, the adventure, the pursuit, the rescue, the escape, the revenge, the riddle, the rivalry, the underdog, temptation, metamorphosis, transformation, love, forbidden love, sacrifice, discovery, ascension, dissension, the underdog, right? So what's your plot? The plot that we probably know really well, maybe we all seen Rocky, the underdog, right? The underdog is easy story, right? I'm a nobody trying to be somebody, trying to make a name for myself. So you can start thinking about that, right? But your story could be anything you want it to be, like a book, movie, TV show, comic book. You know, it could be anything you want it to be. Pro wrestling is your art. The ring is your canvas. Paint your art, right? Paint a visual picture on what you're doing here, okay? So what's the next element of the 5 elements of telling a story? Conflict. Any good movie has got conflict in it. Sometimes they have 2 conflicts in it, right? Let's take Titanic, for example. Guy wants to get on the boat. He gets on the boat. There's probably 3 conflicts. Then the guy wants to get the girl. Then the fucking boat is sinking. Like, Jesus Christ, it starts escalating, you know? So think about that. There always has to be, because if there is no conflict, we're just watching Joey live a day in his life. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm walking to the post office. So what's going to happen, right? It's like Seinfeld. Nothing. Well, something has to happen, right? No, nothing happens. I think for the most part, we watch a lot of vlogs that nothing happens. And I think that it's okay. Like it's changed our mindset a little bit this time. But if you want to tell that story, let's put some conflict, right? It's pro wrestling. Of course, we're gonna have conflict. You know, every story match will have conflict to solve, and the plot is centered around this conflict, right? When the story's action becomes most exciting, right before the resolution, it is called the climax. So for my wrestlers in here, what does that sound like? What does that sound like? When the story's action becomes most exciting, right before the resolution, the finish, right? Right before the finish.
Double down.
Could be the double down, but where? What's that?
Comeback?
Comeback, right? Because it's the climb. We're getting to the climax of this, right? The beginning of the climax. The end of the climax will probably be Sage Sin hitting her finisher. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? So what's the conflict is, as easy as it can sound, and I'll get to this when we start talking about the match psychology, is I'm the heel and I'm beating up Sage Sin. She's got to overcome that. She's got to overcome that conflict, right? Really simple. So, but we can break this story down and go even deeper into it. But now we're just really, as beginners, we're going to keep it right here on the surface. Okay? Fifth element, what we call in pro wrestling, the finish, or as what they call in storytelling, the resolution, right? What is the finish, right? The solution to the problem is the way the action is resolved. Your finishing move, you win the match, to end the program, you know? So thinking about that, the resolution. So we have our 5 elements: character, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. Now we're okay. Now we're ready to build a match, because when I used to wrestle, I had no clue anything about this. I'd wrestle like a friggin' video game. I'd lock up, kick somebody in the gut, kick my uncle in the gut, take him, whip him. He'd probably do it to me first. Whip me, clothesline, pick me up, body slam, pick me back up, right? Now, that's another thing in psychology. You got somebody down, right? We're in a real fight, and you're in a boxing match. You just knocked your opponent out. Why are you going to pick him up? You're not going to pick him up. Get up himself. Get up here. Can you finish this match, right? And so we used to do that. We used to just wrestle like a video game all day. Just move after move after move. We knew nothing about how to even put a match together or storytelling or anything like that, you know. So now that we have our 5 elements to our story, let's talk a little bit about pro wrestling psychology. Okay, and so now pro wrestling psychology, we could talk pro wrestling psychology until we retire. We really can. I mean, it's ongoing about what pro wrestling psychology is. But don't let that scare you. You know, don't let it scare you like it scared me about pro wrestling psychology. One day it's just going to click, because my veterans actually were half right. They were half right. One day it does just click, you know. After, because I can throw all this information at you and you still be like, man, I just still do not get it. When you put yourself in a situation in the ring, that's when that light bulb does go off. So I hope that's what my veteran meant when they told me one day it would just click. I wish they would have told me, you know, you study it, and then maybe if you still don't get it one day, it'll just click. So that's what I like to think about. So don't let match psychology scare you. All it is just storytelling and professional wrestling. That's all it is. That word psychology always scared me. Always did. When Ruby's here, she's a psychology major. She likes to really talk about that, and hopefully she'll stop by tomorrow. So let's think about it, right? As pro wrestlers, our job is to drive the people's emotions, right? How do we do that, though? How do we do that? How do we drive the people's emotions? Through storytelling, right? What are you going to say, Joe? Can't hear you, my friend.
I was gonna say, like, if you're the face, you wanna have them cheer for you. If you're the heel, you want them like go against you.
Yeah, man, exactly, right? Right. So how do we drive these people's emotions? Through the protagonist versus the antagonist, aka the face versus the heel. Okay, so that's how we're gonna drive these emotions, right? Keeping it simple. Keeping it simple. I tell everybody when I try to break down these matches, and I say, like, what's the secret? When I talked to Jerry Lynn, and he started coming up, and he was wrestling Rob Van Dam in ECW, became the ECW champion, and he was like floating in Nitro as Mr. JL for like many years, and then he kind of just really broke out. And when he came to XPW, I asked him, I said, Jerry Lynn, he's a great, cool guy. And I asked him, I said, so how did you just change everything? How did you just change everything from just Mr. JL to now one of the most sought after wrestlers on the scene today? And he said, I went back and I kept it simple, and I watched a bunch of 70s and early 80s NWA, and that's all I watched. And my jaw dropped, because I was like, if you watch Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn, I'm like, I still to this day, like, where's the 70s fucking NWA? But it's in there. It totally is in there. It's less is more, being more creative, keeping your mind to do something different, right? What do we want to do? We all want to do the Shining Wizard and the super kick and this, right? We all want to do it. So if everyone's fucking doing it, maybe you should watch some older wrestling where they're not doing super kicks and Shining Wizards, and be creative and go back to the basics, keeping it simple. And that's what Jerry Lynn told me. Just kept it simple. Just went back to regular psychology and just didn't try to think about trying to do all these cool moves or stunts. When I asked Roddy Piper, and I said, you have any advice for aspiring wrestlers coming up in the world? And he says, don't go out there trying to do a bunch of stats. Give them your heart and you can't go wrong. Wrestle with your heart. Right? Man, that stuck with me forever, right? Wrestling with your heart, right? Don't go out there, because I used to call it like a video game. I want to do this cool move, this cool move, this cool move, this cool move, and then this. You know? And so if Roddy Piper, if I had a chance to elaborate with Roddy Piper, I'm sure he would start talking about, if I said, how do I give him my heart? Through match psychology and storytelling, through face versus heel, and keeping it simple. White hat versus black hat. You'd be so surprised if you started looking at the story of the Bible and compare it to Star Wars. It's like the same shit. It's like the same shit. You know what I mean? It really is. Good versus evil. Can't go wrong. You really can't. So, right, we're going to do that through faces versus heel, right? The protagonist or the face has to get the crowd behind them to cheer their actions, to care for for the face through their character and or personality. The face has to connect to the crowd through the face's selling, the facial expressions, and the heel conflict, right? So let's go over that a little bit more, right? So the face, the only job the face has to do is connect with the crowd. So breaking it down, how do we do that? Because I'm wrestling Sage and I cheated. I pulled her hair. Then I gouged her eyes. And the referee got on me and I put my hands up and said, I didn't do anything. And I went back and choked her a little bit more. You know? So now Sage is in this conflict. You know, and now how can she connect to the crowd with that? Right now, first everyone's gonna say, man, fuck this guy Chaos. Like he can't even beat Sage, man. Like he's like double her size and he can't fucking beat her. He's cheating. You know? I would never say dare say she's a girl. I would say she's double her size. You know? And he has to cheat. So now people are like, fuck that guy. Now, if Sage just actually puts her head down and doesn't show any facial expressions, and actually like sells like a dead fish and just doesn't hold on, like maybe I'm beating up her ribs and she doesn't hold her ribs or anything like that, we are going to have an incredibly hard time getting Sage to connect to that audience. You know, we really are. What I noticed with I'll say all the Vince's guys when they come to this primetime live pay-per-view, Leo Rush in particular, and Freddie Rozer, Darren Young. What I notice about them, and I try to pick these up to like feed to you guys, is their facial expressions are just out of control. Like it's just the face is there. When they speak, they're making the big eyes. They have to make those because that. First of all, with no audience, that's what the camera director is looking for facial expressions. Maybe we're looking at Sage and she's really hurt almost to the point of a tear in her eye. And every time she's trying to almost mount a comeback, here comes fucking Chaos doing a fucking cheap cheat, pissing off. And I'm hoping to connect to the crowd where they're pissed off at me for my actions. That's the idea that I want them to get to. And now I don't want Sage to dead fish sell. I want her to hold her ribs and really try to climb the ropes because it hurts so much, like Rocky. You know what I mean? Not in the beginning of the match. Obviously, once I've beaten her down a little bit, now she can do that Rocky stuff and really pull up, and then throw her hair out of her face to really show the pain and anguish in her face, to connect with the audience, through that facial expression. Because we do start connecting. We do start connecting. And we do start connecting when maybe she's not a good face. Maybe she's not a good face. But maybe I'm a great heel. They're going to cheer for her anyway. Vice versa. Maybe I'm not a good heel, but she's a great face. Fuck this guy, no matter what, because we love Sage Sin, right? The same way as you went out there against John Cena or Hulk Hogan through his face heyday. You know what I mean? So thinking about that, facial expressions and selling, right? Cheating. Nobody likes a cheater. Some of the fans will. There'll be some fans that like Rudos. Some, right? Rudos are heel fans, right? Or Rudos are heels, right? There's a Rudo section and Technicos. Technicos are faces. So there might be a lot of people that like the heel, like the villain, like Freddy Krueger, Jason. They like that. But for the most part, people are cheering on the underdog, getting beat down. That's why we loved Rocky so much, Plus, we followed his story. We got to see his personality and his character and who he was, how he really didn't believe in himself. He was the underdog. He thought he was just going to be a sparring partner for the champ, Then he didn't know that he really could believe in himself to actually win. Now that we know all of that, man, 9 out of 10 people feel that way. 100%. I don't care how successful you have become in life. You've probably felt that once. No one cares about me. I don't believe that I can do it. But if I have an opportunity, I'll at least try, So let's talk a little bit about the antagonist or the heel. Okay. So now me or the heel, right? I need to, as the heel, I need to get the people to care about the face through my heel actions, right? The heel has a job to do, and that job is to get the baby face over. It's not for me to do all my cool moves. My job is to get the fucking baby face over, so that way, when Sage goes to the top rope after getting beat up for 4 to 8 minutes, however long my heat is, the whole crowd's going ape shit that she's finally on the top rope, and they're like, fucking get him. And the reason it's going to be like that is maybe we got to build a little bit of hope. I can't just hurt her ribs and then give her a rib breaker and just beat her down and then just kind of just keep beating her down for 4 minutes straight. I mean, that's fucking boring, man. Like, finish him already. You're watching a boxing match and the guy just keeps teeing off on them. You're like, well, knock him the fuck out already then. I mean, come on. Let's get it going. So what I need Sage to do in that matter is I need her to fight and stay alive. If you ever guys could get an opportunity to get in the ring with me, that's all I will constantly tell you as I am beating you down. Stay alive. Fight back. Stay with me. Stay alive. Fight back. Keep fighting back. What Ricky the Dragon Steamboat told us was, and you want to look at somebody that's a great seller, as a great face, great facial expressions. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is one of the best, top notch. So what he told us was, when I'm taking heat, quote unquote, when I'm getting beat down in the middle of the match, I don't let my heel hit me more than 4 times without answering back at least once. Okay, so I could let him hit me once. Maybe he punches me, drops an elbow, that's 2, covers me, that could be 3, chokes me, that's 4. I need to have an answer before he hits me again on the 5th time. Right? We don't have to be robotic and count 1, 2, 3, 4, punch. No. I like to push away. Someone gives me the first punch. As a heel, if you're fighting back so much, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, slow the fuck down, it makes me work harder as a heel. I have to work. I don't have to worry about spots now. I got to worry about this motherfucker just won't stay the fuck down. That is the spot. That is the spot right there. But Sage doing her hope and showing us that there's a possibility of a comeback, showing us that there's a possibility of her to make that 4th quarter comeback. That keeps us engaged as an audience to watch this match. It completely does. But if it's just me beating her up for 4 minutes straight, it's not fun. Then it looks like it's my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. We don't want it to look like that. We want it to look like a fight. So think about that, what Ricky the Dragon Steamboat said. Every 4 hits, I have to deliver a punch back. Maybe I get hit once, and I'll punch him once. He could hit me twice, and I could punch him once. He could hit me 3 times, but I will never let it go past 4. Always trying to stay alive. And it doesn't have to be a robotic punch. I will sometimes, if I'm the heel or if I'm the face and my heel is just holding me by my hair and I'm on my knees and he's just jaw-jacking with the crowd, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to fucking push him away. Now I created distance. Now I'm thinking about this. I always think about this as what if pro wrestling was real? All right, I'll push them away to create distance. Now as they come back, I'm going to kick them in the gut or punch them in the stomach. And now I'm going to keep punching them until my heel, because they know, and what I'll teach you this week is that in match psychology, until the comeback comes, as a heel, I'm going to keep Sage Sin down. And no matter how big of amount of a comeback she tries to do, as a heel that is working her ribs, because maybe my finisher is I don't know, belly to backdrop, maybe a belly to belly suplex, whatever it is. So I'm working her ribs so that way when I hit the belly to backdrop, she won't get up, So the idea is when she's mounting that comeback and she's got me on the rocks and everyone's getting on the edge of their seat and they're like, get him, Sage, get him, Sage, get him. All I got to do is probably duck one of her punches or clotheslines and give her a shot to the rib, and she'll crumble right down. And no one's going to say, you're weak, Sage. They're going to say, oh, fuck, almost. You almost had him. And on our our comebacks and our staying alive as we're taking this heat and telling this story, showing that you have fight in you. I would probably definitely like her to, as she's mounting her comeback and as she's at her biggest point in that comeback and everybody's at the edge of the seat again, I'd like her to go for that. I'd like her to go for her finish that I would counter, get her out of the way. Now here's my heel hope because she's about to mount her comeback and I try to give her something. Now she just starts unloading on me into a huge comeback. Right? For any of us ever watched sports, and our team has been losing in the fourth quarter, and our team comes back within the last 3 minutes of the game, how does it make you feel? It's the same thing we try to do in professional wrestling and try to make these people feel the same way. That's where, a lot of the, when we get into the match psychology of false finishes start coming in, and you count 1, 2, or maybe the referee gets knocked down, and another ref comes in to make the cover, and they count for Sage 1, 2, and then I kick out, and then I finally beat her. People are going to go, man, if the ref never got knocked out, if Chaos was never fucking cheating, man, Sage would have whooped his fucking ass. But the drama in the entire match is what we loved about it. We loved the cheating. We love that the referee got knocked out and Sage is holding the pin and everyone's counting 1, 2, 3, and there's no fucking ref. And now here comes the second ref sliding in the ring and right 1, 2, and then finally I give the big kick. Oh, the drama. How it makes people feel. So after the face mounts their comeback, where do we go? We go to our resolution, right? The resolution is the finish. When the face makes the comeback after taking the heat, we are at the climax. Once we reach our climax, we must take it home. Must. We don't want to bring the crowd to here, then bring them back down to here, and then take it home right here, right? So if we're here, take it home. Take it home. Shane Douglas told me one day, he was agenting my match, and he told me, we're wrestling our match. I give this super kick, and the crowd just explodes. Biggest pop of the night. I go for the cover. My partner Carlos kicks out, and then we go to our finish. So the super kick was right here. The finish was about right here. So Shane Douglas says, why didn't you take it home on the super kick? And I was dumbfounded, and I said, well, because that wasn't the finish. And he says, it should have been the finish. And I was like, but it wasn't the finish. We called this. And he's like, yeah, but did you hear the pop? Once you had him here, go home. You don't have to give any more. Once you have him here, that's it. Less is more. Stop. You don't have to finish it. Because the worst thing is to continue your match, to get your other cool moves in, and it finishes right here. So they were about to go ape shit when Sage went to the top row, but then Chaos and Sage decided to go 3 more minutes after the climax. Which not going to make a terrible match, but think about that less is more. Once Kid Chaos hit that super kick, I should have taken it home, and I did not. I didn't understand until a couple of years later. What does he mean? We didn't call the fucking finish was the blockbuster or whatever it was. I didn't understand. Take it home right there because you got him to the highest point, and that's it. It's time to go home. We get selfish as wrestlers. We want to get all of our shit in. But we got to remember, get all your shit in training. Get all your shit in a training match. When you go out there, drive that crowd and be smart enough to know when to take it home, right? And that's Tracy Smothers, God bless him. He just passed away, but he would always say, Tracy pile driver. They would yell at him, Tracy this, Tracy that, and Tracy would turn around and go, fuck you, kid. I'm calling this match. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing in the world. So I totally get that. You're calling the fucking match. 100%. It's your fucking match. But know when to take it home. Know when you're at that climax and there's nothing more to give, right? We never want to bring them home, right? Have we ever we ever watched a movie? I think I want to say I think it was what's that? What's that movie? That's a trilogy. It's got Frodo in it. The Hobbit. It's not The Hobbit. It's another one. Is it Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Does that sound about right? I think it's the third Lord of the Rings. And man, I don't know, about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in, they have this battle scene, this huge battle scene. And I'm like, all right, I am ready to take it home. And this movie's been on for a little bit. It's enjoyable, but this seems like the go home battle scene. And I watched it. And I was like, okay, ready for the credits, ready to take it home. And they went an hour after that battle scene. They really did. And I was like, it was too much. And so I thought about my wrestling matches and what Shane Douglas told me. And I said, man, I felt the climax, at least for me. I'm not a cinema genius, but I thought for me the climax of that movie was right there at that battle scene. And they kept going. It took me out of the movie. Didn't want to see it no more. I have never watched it ever again. And so the same thing thinking about when to take it home, knowing when, even though what you called maybe the finish may be when they pop the hardest right then and there. So that's kind of a overall breakdown of a little bit of match psychology. Then I get completely detailed into it, and I'll give you totally examples this week. But before we close it and then open it up for some questions again, I just wanted to let you know, like, there's many different ways to call a match, right? What I do is I break it down. Now, if you talk to Al Snow will say, man, that match breakdown is the stupidest thing I ever fucking heard. That's cool, but I'm still going to teach you it because I find for beginners, it gives you such an incredible structure to understand the match psychology, to understand what comes next. I can go out there and do the match like Al Snow wants, have many comebacks, have many heats, have many false finishes, have many openings or shines or whatever the case is. I can do that. But I was never able to do that until I was actually able to break my match breakdown down, to really break it down. And I'll mention it to you here, and I'll put it in the notes, right? So here's one way to help you understand the psychology of the match, right? And how we implement this into a pro wrestling match itself, right? So let's break it down. Number one, establish face and heel. Okay. Some could say that's part of your 5 elements, right? Your character. Number one, your character, right? So you want to establish face and heel. And I'll go into detail how we can do that tomorrow. Number two, the face shines. If you don't know what a shine is when the face gives multiple moves and puts the heel on their ass or on their back, right? What are they doing? They're shining. They're looking great, looking like a star, okay? Number three, the heel cutoff. Okay. And I like to think about the heel cutoff to really go even deeper into my psychology. My psychology or my finish would be a gonzo bomb, which is a power bomb, pick you up, drop you into a pile driver. So it's like your neck, right? So my match psychology is I like to hurt your neck. So you're giving me a shine, or say Jake Atlas was giving me a shine and arm drag this, and he does all his cool fucking moves that I don't have to do because he's doing all the flips. And then I get to the point where I take his neck and pull it over the metal turnbuckle, and he snaps his head back, falls down to the floor. He hurt his neck. Okay, and the reason I bring this up because now number 4 is the heat. And in the heat, I just got to beat up my opponent. And I'll go more detail into this tomorrow. But now in the heat, what I like to do, my finish is the gonzo, so which leads me to think about working the neck. So now in the heat, all I have to do is beat up the neck. I don't have to worry about spots. I don't have to worry about anything really. As long as Sage Shin is gonna stay alive on her own, and even if she isn't gonna stay alive on her own, I'm gonna say, fight back, Sage, stay alive, hit me, punch me, move, duck, this, that, and the other. All of that, So all I know is I'm working the heat, or I'm working the neck. kind of what Miranda Elise said yesterday was, I didn't know what to do to work the arm. She knew what the fuck to do. She did the Penta OM fucking arm breaker. I think she did like a Ronda Rousey like short arm bar. She had all these moves, but she was like, I didn't know what to do, so I just beat up the arm. That's exactly what I would tell you. You don't know what to do, you just beat up the neck. Just club it then. Just club the neck. Just beat it up. Drop a leg on the neck. You know what I mean? Drop your knee on the neck. Drop your elbow drop, you know? Put your hand on it and treat it like it's the claw and just the back of his neck. I'm not choking him. I'm grabbing his neck like it's a tongue and death grip, you know? Just beat it up. And then I start thinking about crawling around the there's his neck. He's under the rope on the apron. Let me pull his neck and let it push up right against the rope, showing, and I'm hoping my man is selling like a motherfucker. I hope if he's just like this, and he's not screaming or making any noise, no one's gonna care. But if he's screaming, my neck, oh my gosh, you know, and the referee's like, you want to give it up? And he's like, no, I don't want to give it up. And I'm like, give it up, Jake, beating him up. Oh man, so now let's take our selling and think about when we hurt our neck. We all slept the wrong way once or twice in our life. So what do? Huh? Someone's saying something behind you. That's how you turn. So you start doing that in the wrestling match. You start, and then you hope, if you're smarter, you're going to talk to the commentators, but then you hope that the commentators will pick up on that. Jake Atlas can't even turn his neck. He has to turn his whole body, you know? It starts making you think, wow, that really hurts. Because I remember when I slept with my neck the wrong way and I woke up, it hurt. When I turned my neck once, it hurt, right? So then we start thinking about that as fans. You start connecting with your selling because of that. You know, so really working that heat, working that neck. Let's go to number 5. Number 5, I just kind of added in there. I didn't have it in there all the time, but number 5 is small comeback and or the false comeback. Okay, what we've already talked about Sage staying alive in the match and not just letting me beat her up, or even Jake getting beat up by his neck, staying alive, you know. Making it a fight, making it a competition. Never want to see your moves, my moves, your moves, my moves. It just looks like an exhibition of moves, you know, which is great. It's a great stunt show, but we're trying to make people feel something, you know. Let's go to number 6. Number 6, the full comeback. So Sage is done getting beat up. As fans, we're done watching her get beat up, and we really don't want to see her get beat up for another 4 minutes. She has to make this comeback, right? Like, so we're watching our movie. What if Jack just got thrown off the boat and there's no more movie? We're just watching it now. What if the boat never sunk? No one cared, right? We're just watching these people on the boat. So thinking about that, right? It's time for number 6 for Sage to make her full comeback. We are now at the beginning of our climax, right? We're looking at our 5 elements of a story, you know. Now, number 7 is an add-in. You don't need it. You can't have it. Most matches today have it. I try to deter any match that I agent these days on not having any false finishes. But write it down. Number 7, false finishes. And the reason being is because everybody does a false finish. Everybody wrestles Rocky's last match. And everybody wants that. He almost lost and he got up. He almost lost and he got up. Like, if we all do that, it's all the fucking same. So I tell people, and I even try to change it when they say, I want false finishes. I say, well, let's do one-sided false finishes. I'm wrestling Sage, and so I'm going to beat her with my gonzo. So when she makes her comeback, she's going to hit me with one big move, go for the cover, I'll kick out. She's on fire. She sets me up. I give a little counter. She hits me with another big move. She goes for the cover. I kick out. She goes to set me up for the third big move because she's like frustrated. I got to beat him, so I got to go bigger. Takes me to the top rope, so I finally counter her and hit her with the gonzo. So I like to add that in, like one-sided false finishes, but so important to watch every match on the card, so that way you don't you don't replicate anything. And then even if you're the first match, there's no false finishes for you. There's no going outside the ring. You know, I wouldn't even have any false comebacks. I would probably just give some heat, make the full comeback, take it home. which is number 8. Finish to the match. Take it home. You know? And so this is like a basic breakdown, 1 to 8, for someone who has been wrestling and wants to add a little bit of add a little bit of salt and pepper to their match. You know, so now if we're just beginners and we're just starting, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 and call it a day as a beginner. That's what I would do. You know, if I see everyone doing false finishes, maybe I don't want to do a false finish. Let's be more creative on how we can tell our story. Because if everyone's doing the Rocky finish, where he's underdog, almost losing, kicks out, almost losing, right, gets back to his feet, it's not as special. Plus, I was always taught you got to save that for the main event. They earned it. They're the main event now, and that's it. I was always taught whenever I was on a show with El Santo, they would say, don't go to the top rope. That's for El Santo. So that way, when he goes to the top rope, it's the first time that night anybody on the card is going to the top rope. And so the entire fucking crowd is going to go apeshit for El Santo doing it. Why? You know, it could be cheap, but he fucking earned it. He's the main event. He's the draw. You know, so he earned it. Deal with it. Okay, I can sit there and complain and bitch and moan and say, oh, fucking Santo's got it all. Or I can go and get creative. Pretend I'm going to the top rope, but never make it, maybe. You know? Get creative on how, because we could tell our story and do our match many different ways. There's, right, I said that before I started talking at 7, I said, there is no right or wrong way to do it. Does it look good? Does it make sense? And is it safe? And when I say, does it make sense? That's in the realm of professional wrestling. Because I'll tell you what, me whipping Sage into the ropes and her running back, that don't make sense. You know, it does not make sense. I couldn't whip my 5-year-old nephew into the ropes and have him come running back to me. It just doesn't work that way. You know, in the realm of professional wrestling, that's 100% legitimate. You know, in the realm of professional wrestling, your opponent laying down in the middle of the ring while I go to the top rope is 100% legitimate. We don't question it. We don't think about it. Imagine somebody going to the top rope in the middle of the UFC octagon, and the guy's knocked out in the middle of the ring, and now the guy's going to the top of the cage to jump on him. Oh, that guy's never coming back to UFC. He's getting suspended, fined by the commish. Yeah, but in the realm of professional wrestling, that's A-okay, and it's 100% legitimate. We will never question it. Okay, so when I say, does it look good? Does it make sense? Is it safe? Does it make sense in the realm of professional wrestling? Believe it or not, there's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense in pro wrestling, but we buy into it. It's okay. It's kind of like I was watching a lot of Friday the 13th, right? How are they running from Jason, and all of a sudden Jason's in front of them? Well, in the realm of horror movies, that's acceptable. You know what I mean? It's acceptable. I actually watched the new Friday the 13th, which was like 10 years ago, and they said the director tried to address some of that stuff. And they had Jason actually running. And I totally did not like it. I was like, that looks like garbage. And I said, yeah, it seems real. But Jason actually running, chasing people, that don't fly with me. Hey, when they open the door, he's just standing there after they just ran a mile from him. I buy that. You know what I mean? In the realm of horror movies, you buy it. In the realm of professional wrestling, thinking about that, okay? So there is no right or wrong way. Does it look good? Does it make sense? Is it safe? And if you could answer yes, 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 you can evolve and you can do your match any which way you want, right? I'd love to see someone try to do the Pulp Fiction match. Would it work? I don't know. We start with the comeback, then we go to the heat, and then we go to the false finishes. I don't know. Just mixing it all up. Sounds impossible until it's done, to really be honest with you. So I'm pretty sure somebody will do it. There's many different matches. I'm pretty sure. Well, I think there's a match by Daniel Bryan, and he does a headlock match, 20 minutes. And he learned this from Brian Kendrick, because Brian Kendrick would do it here at the Santino Brothers Dojo, and they would do a headlock match. And the entire match was, once you lock up and once you grab that headlock, that's it. Don't ever let go of the headlock until we go to the finish. And the finish is whip them off the ropes, drop down, leapfrog, drop kick, pin, 1, 2, 3. and they give you 10 minutes. In this case, Daniel Bryan had 20 minutes. What do you do when all you can do is a headlock? It's time to get creative. And so I always have the students go and do this headlock match because it ties your hands and it makes you get creative. I also do matches where I'll tell people, don't run the ropes. They're not even there. Just wrestle in the middle of the ring. You can't even use ropes, can't hop over them, can't do anything with the ropes. What does it do? After you go, man, fuck chaos for making me do this. You go, okay, well, how do I get creative? And it makes you get a lot more creative. There's going to be so many different times where you roll in and the ropes suck and you can't even run off the ropes. You can't bounce off, can't do anything. You might roll into a ring and there's no ropes for some reason or another, you know? So it's always great to challenge yourself. So in this headlock match, what you would do, you would never just go and lock up and grab the headlock. No way. I would kind of go in, and if I'm playing the heel, I'd back him up, ref, and I would go through the ropes and say, get him back, check his hair, check his boots. Did you check him now? Because at this time, now I'm killing time in my match. I got 20 minutes to fill, and all we're going to do is a headlock and a drop kick, and that's it, hypothetically. So then we'll maybe lock up, and we'll roll around the ring a couple of times and break. We'll lock up again. We'll tell the referee, get between us, and break us. We'll try to lock up again. I'll pull his hair. The referee will count 1, 2, 3. He'll break us again till finally the heel locks up and grabs that head, pulls that hair, and wrenches it in. Maybe at that point, maybe if we were really good, we still got 16 minutes left, Then what I would do is I wouldn't go to the floor for another 5 minutes. I would keep the headlock here. I'd have him lift me up for a suplex, bring him back down, punch him, bring him back down, drag him. I would actually do a real bulldog without doing a bulldog. Just drag him down with my feet going forward. No actual move just yet. But now that I think about it, that's an actual move that I could do because I will not release the headlock. Another one that he could do, and usually what they'll do on their comeback is I have the headlock, which means that he has a belly-to-back suplex, and he'll suplex me. I won't release the headlock, but I'll sell the back, but I'll still hold on to it. Then he'll put me in the cover, 1, 2, put me in the cover, 1, 2, put me in the cover, 1, 2, kick out again. We go to our feet. He'll punch me, right? What is this? This is the comeback. Punch me, whip me into the ropes, drop down, leapfrog, big drop kick. That's the finish. Go home. Less is more. If you ever get a chance to see that Daniel Bryan match, and I'll try to find it and post it. I don't know if it's online per se, but it is an incredible match. I think I do have Brian Kendrick's headlock match from when he did it at the dojo. I filmed it. And I think it's a really great match to just really show you the less is more idea of professional wrestling. So, at this time, what I want to do now is I want to kind of open it up for questions that you may have. Right, there is no stupid question here. There was a time that I would just nod my head and not understand what it is. So if I'm talking in pro wrestling jargon, it's like part of my life. Like I don't even see it as pro wrestling jargon anymore. If I'm saying shine or cut off or comeback and you don't understand what the fuck that is, ask now. Let it out right now, and then I'll teach you. I'll let you know. So.
Okay, so when you're doing this and you have a 10-minute match, you hit all the spots that you're supposed to hit, and then the next night they're like, that was cool, you need to go 20 now. So do you just make each spot longer, or do you do because I watch matches and try to find all the spots in them like that, but sometimes it'll be do they do shine, heat, cut off, shine, heat, cut off, shine, heat, whatever, just throwing and just repeating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then go to the finish or the cutoff or anything like that? Is that just
go ahead?
That's it. I'm very structure orientated, so whenever I hear about stuff like this, I'm like, okay, so when should this go? Because doing I don't know, 3 double downs in a match sounds stupid to me, kind of thing, so is it just those first 3 or 4 things just on repeat until you hit 18 minutes and then you got to take it home at that point, or what?
So now if Sage and I are having a match and we have ample time and they say, hey, we're adding 5 minutes to your match. Usually when they're adding time to your match, you will not have the time to just restructure the entire match. I mean, you can, but usually they're adding time to your match is because Joe and Hyde went out there and they wrestled and they went out and they're supposed to go 10 minutes and they went 4. So now they go to Sage, they go to me and Sage and say, hey man, you guys got to add 5 minutes to your match. And it's usually like right before we're going out there. So then what I would turn to Sage and I would say, well, okay, so I'll kill the extra 2 minutes in the beginning and then I'll add about 3 more minutes to the heat, which means that just think about more false comebacks. You know, and so what I would do, and the easiest way to do it is just to add, we could even add that entire 5 minutes to the middle of the heat and then just tell Sage, but stay alive. And as a matter of fact, let's give you an incredible false comeback where we make people believe this is the comeback, and I'll actually give you a second cutoff just to kind of drag it up a little bit without making it seem so boring. All right, so I'm giving Sage 4 minutes of heat already, and then just add 5 more minutes to the heat. Ooh. That's 9 minutes of just Sage getting beat up. Like you didn't finish the match yet. Like, so that's what I would do is I would say, well, you're going to have to make a comeback, shine, stay on me, and I'll cut you back off again. And maybe the first time I'll work your back, the second time I'll work your neck. And now we just really elongated the entire match. Just by just putting it a little bit in the heat. I personally don't like to go out there and call a lot of spots. So when I wrestled Jake Atlas, and on January 4th, one of the things that he told me was like, I was like, all right, Jake, I actually brought him into the dojo and said, let's work on our match. And he goes, no. He goes, no, we're gonna do your type of match. And I'm like, hey man, I'm bringing you in because I want to work with you a little bit. So let's work on the match. And he's like, no, bro. We're gonna call it all in the ring. I'm like, you're a fucking asshole, dude. Like, I'm bringing you in. He's like, no, that's how you taught me. Like, all right. So I had to put on my fucking working boots and say, all right, let's go to work. What we ended up doing was just basically, all right, Jake, you're gonna do the DDT. You're gonna finish me with the DDT. I told him I'm gonna do a leg drop. I'm gonna do a power slam, and I'm gonna work your neck. Just fucking shine. Went out there and just wrestled. Plus, he was. Man, his fight didn't come in until about after intermission of that match. I think we threw in an intermission because he wasn't there. We don't normally do it. And so we went out there and just really called it all in the ring. And I like doing that, not to be like, back in my day, it was like, hey, kid, we're going to call it in the ring. And it was supposed to scare the young guys because young guys didn't really know how to call in the ring. But I like going out there. And if I told anybody, and I went out there and wrestled Sean Hart, and I said, hey, we're going to call in the ring. I would take care of you 100%. You know, when I got a chance to wrestle Tracy Smothers, that exact thing happened. We went back, we sat down to talk about, I had 2 matches that night. We sat down to talk about the second match that I was going to have, which was versus Tracy Smothers. And we had just sat down and did not say anything yet. And the guy comes to the door, and I thought he was going to say, you guys got 5 minutes. He was like, your music is playing. I'm like, what the fuck is going? I had no clue, right? So I'm like, all right. And Tracy just gets up and starts walking, and I'm like, fuck we gonna do? Like, what the fuck we gonna do? And as soon as he gets to the curtain, he turns around to me and he goes, trust me. And he said it through his teeth just like that, trust me. I was like, all right, I'll trust him. And he went out there and he put me on his back and he carried me through an entire match where we had dives to the outside and everything. And he was just calling it on the fly. Even at the point, he was like, hey kid, in the middle of the match, what's your finish? And I'm practicing this move. It's actually the sliced bread number 2. And there's a fun story about that. And I said, it's this move I was practicing earlier. And he had remember seeing it because he would train all of us before the show. And he goes, all right, kid, I'll do it. And so, man, he took me to a great match, went through everything. I never wrestled a match without calling it in the back. And I thought it was gold. And really, Tracy Smothers taught me so much about that, about just calling in the ring. And then not only that, he's calling everything like this. Come on, kid, get the hold. Get the crowd into it, you know. And I'm just like, first of all, I've never called it in the ring. Second, I've never been in a match with a guy who's talking through his fucking teeth, not moving his lips. And it was like a challenge to me. Like, can you keep up with this guy? You better keep up. Put up or shut up, right? Show the fuck up prepared, no matter what's thrown your way. I felt I wasn't prepared, but they threw me in the deep end, and I felt I pulled it off, which then taught me to want to just call it in the ring. I feel that when I call it in the ring, it leaves so much more open for me to build moments and for me to become organic. You know, I think that's so important is to not just go in there like a robot and say, well, Sage and I called 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. I like to go in there and just say, hey, I'm going to work your neck. I want you to shine. If you want to tell me you're shining, that's fine. If you want to call in there, let's fucking do it. Because I get excited about that. It's like kind of like you get that euphoria feeling for saying, fuck, we just called it right then and there and just did it. You know, because a lot of people take hours to call a match sometimes. You know, hours. I just like to feel it because I like to see what's around the ring. You know, oh, Jake's in the corner. Oh, boom, light bulb goes off. Let me clothesline and pull him out, hit him with a brain buster, go and cover, whatever the case is. And I'm not going to bullshit you. I can't remember like an entire match that Jake would call. Like I would just, at one point, if he was just calling it, I would just start going, okay, sure, okay, yeah. I mean, I'd be lost. Now pro wrestling's not fun to me anymore. That's why I don't really like to call um, anything in the back. Call a finish. If anything, I'll call a finish. Matt, please.
Well, I was just going to say, with what you're saying there and what you were saying earlier about when you got a huge pop off of something and you should have went to the finish right there. Like, is that something that everyone's okay with? Because, like, if you're doing something like that and you call it like, oh my gosh, everyone just like lost their shit, we're gonna like go home right now, and the guy is like, oh well, I didn't do a Canadian destroyer yet or something like that, like is that something that gives you negative shit with everybody else?
You probably get negative from your opponent, right? Everybody wants to get their shit in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really care to understand the psychology of the match of what we're actually trying to do. Like we said, we get selfish, and I'm part of it. I'm part of that selfishness person. I got to get my shit in, you know. I don't think many people will be good with it. I think I've been able to work my way up to whoever I wrestle, and if I told them, "Hey, stay down," they'll stay down for me, you know. But you have to be able to work to that level. But at the same time, if you take your wrestling very seriously and show people that you take it seriously and you never mess anything up, people will still just being attracted to you and they'll follow to what you say. They will follow to what you say. So if you go out there and you say, "Hey, stay down," that's all we need. They might be mad. They might just stay down if they're younger and don't know any better, and then figure out like, hey, what happened? Did they tell us to take it home? They're like, no, man, we hit the climax, and I felt, and I could be wrong, but I felt that was it. We should just take it home because we want to. Thinking about if we were wrestling the next day, what are we gonna give them? What are we gonna give them? Hey, you know what I mean? Let's just go ahead and take it home on that super kick. So, any other questions anybody has before we close it out today? Yes, Rain.
Hi. So I guess I just want to get like a clarification between the heel cutoff and the heat. So my understanding is that for the heel cutoff, is it like the moment we're in, okay, once the face shines, the heel tries to take over the match and finds a target, like an Achilles heel, basically, and then that turns into the heat,
I think it's
right? Because
yeah.
that becomes a target, right?
Yeah, you said it. You said it perfectly. You said
Okay.
it. Yeah, you totally said it perfectly. And like a lot of times when I call my heat, or if I'm ever agenting matches, I always ask somebody, "What's your finish?" Bad Bishinoku driver. Okay, maybe head and shoulders or whatever. That leads me to believe you should work this in your heat. Doesn't have to be that way. I like to use that structure. Number one, no one's using it right now. Nobody's using it, right? So I want to feed that to a lot of the wrestlers today is utilize that. No one's working body parts today. It's just basically I go out there and I do a set of moves, and then maybe you come back and you do your set of moves, and I come back. But man, when we're selling and really telling a story, I think we get so much more bang for our buck doing it that way. But yes, I think you actually saying an Achilles is a perfect word for it, right? I like to find that Achilles that's going to hurt, and I want to hurt my face. Not just give him a move and say, I'm taking over now. I'm going to beat you up for 4 minutes. No, the reason I'm beating you up for 4 minutes is because Sage tried to dive on me and I caught her on the outside and I ran her back into the pole. And now, oh my God, she is selling her back like nobody's business. You know, and now everyone's going to go, oh, well, yeah, she can't get up because he just fucking rammed her back into the pole right now. Right? He got her. He got her Achilles. Now I can start the heat. I would never just, I mean, you could, and you will see it happen. She dies off the top rope. I catch her crossbody and just slam her down. I don't feel like I hurt her enough to stay down for 4 minutes for some heat now. I want to hurt her, you know, because otherwise then it's making her look like shit. Once again, my job as the heel is to make this face look great. And so my idea is to hurt you, not just hit you with a move and now just take over for 4 minutes, you know? So I hope that helps you out a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions for today? Kristen, Joe, and then Alfredo. Kristen first.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll just streamline it down to one. One of my weaknesses as a heel is not knowing exactly when to breathe. Like, for example, sometimes I'm not, or at least I'm wailing on the face, but I don't give a moment to gloat and kind of get to draw that heat. Or if I'm beating up somebody, the intensity's kind of leveled out and I don't ramp it up. When's like the best moment to ramp it up or to let it out, let it breathe?
So okay, so what I like is and correct me if I'm wrong on answering this question this way, is if Sage is actually mounting a comeback, what I like to think in my head, she's mounting this comeback, and in my head, I have my mom's here, my wife is here, my brother is here, my whole family's here, my whole friends from the neighborhood are here to watch me wrestle. And Sage is trying to make me look like a fucking fool right now. I'm in control of this fucking match. I'm getting excited, getting mad, right? So as soon as she mounts that comeback and she starts hitting me with a couple of moves, and as soon as I can hit her back and cut her the fuck off, I'm gonna gear up really hard, right? I'm gonna gear up hard. Now the ref is counting 1, 2, 3. I have to be a professional right now. So I keep because she pissed me the fuck off right now, trying to make a fool out of me because this is my night. I got all my friends and family here. And so now I got to cool it down because I can't lose the match. I got to let it breathe for a second. Let it breathe. That's a lot of the points that I like to stop and just let it breathe. Another one is maybe even if we're going to do a submission hold and I got her in a camel clutch because I'm working her back, I want to show facial expressions. The directors, camera guys, and so now I want to also believe the audience wants to see your facial expressions. So if I have her in a camel clutch and then all of a sudden I grab her nose and start pulling it back really slow, I mean, it shows so much. It's all about the face, my facial expressions, my mannerisms of pulling back. I can just pull her back like this, but I want to pull it back, and at the same time she's screaming, maybe reaching out towards the camera, right? Another time to let it breathe right there, right before I would start doing that, let it breathe, because now they're going to get on me and tell me. And that's something we'll talk about also when I start breaking down the match tomorrow and next week, is the gears, different gears, changing different gears, right? I think we talked about this, but it's like when I speak, right? I get really excited and get really loud, and then I can bring it down and just now let's go ahead and speak. And those are the same type of gears that you want to have in your wrestling match. Highs and lows, right? So we see it all the time, right? We see Ronda Rousey or a boxer go out there, and they're not just going to go punch the guy out in the first round, right? They're gonna gas themselves out. So you got to kind of feel your moments when they come, and they got the guy in the corner. Now they're going to unload and turn that gear up, and they have to, because if they don't, they might find themselves caught in a bad predicament. So I hope that helps you out there. I got Joe, Alfredo, and then Sage on the questions. So Joe first.
So my question is basically, like, I'm usually a face, but if I'm ever forced to be a heel, and I have to, like, right now I have a very flashy athletic moveset. Is it a bad idea for me to stick with that? You know, like do like flips and kicks and sling blades, or do I need to modify it so that it doesn't look as flashy or something? Like I don't know if I have a good example of like someone that does flashy moves and still a heel. And I like to think like maybe like Eli or something, but even then, like it's more of a character thing for him. So what would I do in my case?
So the face and the heel, I always like to think the face and the heel are really equal. There's a difference though in mentality. The face goes to bed on time, wakes up early to work out, eats right, does crosses their T's, dots their I's. The heel goes to the strip club at night, drinks whiskey, doesn't wake up, does a half-ass workout, is hungover all day. So at the same time, I want you to think that just because you're the heel doesn't mean you cannot do flashy moves. There's always a time and a place, and so maybe your cutoff could be something cool. Personally, I just like to think I don't want to do anything cooler than the face. If I do anything cooler than the face, I risk the chance of them liking me. And now if they like me and I'm the heel, I am not doing my fucking job. But there are ways to do that. There are ways let's look at maybe we could look at Rob Van Dam, who I believe was a face, but he was very heelish, right? He had Fonzie, he had a manager. Fonzie would actually help him hold the chair up, and I think he was a really good epitome of being very flashy against Jerry Lynn. We just talked about that, right? Jerry Lynn, who was the face. There's no way that Jerry Lynn was the heel. So I think he's definitely go back and watch some Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn matches, and you could definitely see it. Right, it's unconventional, right? It is ECW. There are like no rules. That's what they call some of these matches now, ECW rules, because there was no rule. There was no referee to call anything. So I would say that's probably the best example. But just because you're heel does not mean that you cannot do cool moves. Just try to figure out how to make your face cooler than you. So I like to, whenever I'm the heel, I like to think that I'm Biff from Back to the Future. Tough, mean, but fucking stupid. You know what I mean? And I like to think that to where I'll get to the rope and tell the fans, shut your fucking mouth, and then turn around and trip over the rope and then get mad that they're laughing at me. So maybe if I'm doing cool stuff, I'll do stupid stuff to try to do that. But that's me on how I want my heel to be. Maybe you want your heel to be different. A lot of people don't want to look stupid. I love that shit. I think that's what pro wrestling is, to making me as a heel look like an ass. I think that's exactly right. To see Biff sitting in his car that he just got done, and now he's sitting in with manure. You know what I mean? You want to see the heel. You want to see the heel, get fucked up, and that's totally what I try to portray. So watch some of those matches, and I think that'll help you out.
To go along with that, Coach, how do you know, like say Pentagon, when you're the heel and you have to? He isn't a face, I don't think, but the crowd loves him so much, so he's in that middle area. How do you determine when you're a heel to go to being a face and make that change?
I think I think wrestling obviously has evolved. A great example though about that is if you're the face, you're the face. If you're the heel, you're the heel. Cheap way to do it is if they're cheering me, we can go with it. That's what I would do if I was younger. I would just say, well, they're cheering me over Sage, so let's just go with it. Sage, you're the heel today, which takes an amount of skill. But
do you try and establish that outside of the match then, not during the match? Once the match starts, you're the heel, they're the face.
Well, you try to establish it. Sometimes the fans want you to be what they want you to be. You can go with it, or you can be hardcore and creative like Chris Jericho was when he was wrestling in a program with Shawn Michaels, and they were in Montreal, Canada. And so Montreal, Canada is where Bret Hart was screwed over by Shawn Michaels. Chris Jericho is Canadian. Chris Jericho is the heel. Shawn Michaels is the face. We are in Montreal though tonight. So what's gonna happen? As soon as we hear some boy toy music, and it's 8 o'clock, guys. We're gonna go over about 10 minutes. If you have to leave, I do understand. So as soon as they hear the boy toy music, they shit on it. Montreal hates Shawn Michaels. So they start talking, and Jericho is supposed to be the heel, so they can just go with it. But when they get back to the States and wrestle in San Antonio, it's gonna go flip flop again. So how can they be creative? They can go with it, or what they did was they were creative enough to turn them. So they are cheering Chris Jericho like nobody's mother because they love him. He's Canadian, and they hate Shawn Michaels with a passion because we're in Montreal. So they play that off, and Shawn Michaels is the face, so he's going with it and understanding it and says, okay, hey, I screwed you guys over, but it wasn't me. It was Vince. I was part of it. I take responsibility for it. So he's letting people know. And then he says, but you guys are cheering for Chris Jericho. But do you guys know that he moved to Florida and that's his permanent residence? He doesn't even live in Canada anymore. He has dual citizenship because he wants to be an American. And so all of a sudden they started turning. And everyone that was just cheering Chris Jericho moments before now started booing him. So the point is we can just go with it or really stick to our job and become creative and say, do what Tracy Smothers says and say, fuck you, I'm calling this match. I'm going to conduct you like a composer and bring you up, bring you down, and really touch your heart. So, Alfredo, did you have a question, my friend? Yes, Hogan Rock too. I just seen that message. Oh, absolutely. So they went with it, but then I also turned it back around. You know what I mean? They turned it back around to where he was the heel at the end. But I think it was totally like a heel turn, really heel turn with Hogan. I thought that's an incredible match. Was it their moves? Fuck no. I can't tell you one move that they fucking did. I can't tell. Another match, WrestleMania 3, Andre versus Hulk Hogan. I couldn't tell you one move that Andre did. Can you? I know Hogan slammed him. Well, I don't remember the moves. I remember the drama. I remember the story, and that's what I'm trying to feed to you. No one's gonna. We don't remember the fucking moves, I don't remember I don't remember the moves. I'm sure Hogan hit his leg drop, Rock hit his rock bottom, but I don't remember exactly what happened. I remember the story. I remember it back and forth. I remember Hogan holding his ribs and putting his hand out because Rock wanted to shake him. It was almost like passing the torch, but Hogan almost thinking like, you still believe in me? Like I didn't fuck up. Like I didn't fuck up bad enough. You know what I mean? So I thought that was incredible storytelling. Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, incredible storytelling, right? I mean, I know there was the moonsault in the tombstone, but everyone. Oh no, wait, I'm serious. Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, but everyone remembers the super kick, but everyone remembers him saying, "I'm sorry, I love you." Fuck. Made me cry, man. That's wrestling to me. That's what it's about. All right, sorry, Alfredo. Question, my friend. You're on mute. Take yourself off mute.
I wanted to understand, once you get to let's just say an arena and they tell you who your opponent is that really how it goes? You say, okay, let's start off, you're the heel, I'm the face. Let's just do let's break it down with who starts and who finishes, or you
So
really just go to the finish?
well, if so in general, so if we show up and I'm the new guy and Alfredo's been wrestling for 10 years, I'm gonna come in and say, hey, Alfredo, what do you want to do? Let me know. You are in control of this match. You're my veteran. And then if I'm the veteran, I'm gonna say, Alfredo, what do you do? And you're gonna tell me I do this move, this move, this move, this move. Then I'm gonna try to put it together. And then I'm going to collaborate with you and say, well, what do you think about this? Usually as a new guy, you're going to say, oh man, everything sounds great. As you get 5 years in, a little bit more years in, you're going to say, well, how about we change this up and we collaborate? And as we go in, we already know who the face and heel is just off of prior experiences. If it's your debut match, then you would have to establish that. If we don't know and you're just a new territory, what do you look like? Do you look like the heel compared to the other guy? I wrestled a guy who had high cut marine haircut, and just had a good chiseled body, and good. He would smile all the time, and he wanted to be the heel. And so he went to Gangrel and so told Gangrel, "Hey, I want to be the heel over Chaos." And I'm wearing black eyeliner, and I got fur on my boots, and I got zebra tights, and I'm always snarling. And Gangrel's like, "You can't be the heel. He looks like the heel." So I always tell people, you wrestle how you look. So you would either look at the person and see who the face and heel is. You'll already know who the face or heel is, and then the veteran will usually take the match. And let me tell you, man, if I'm wrestling Rob Van Dam or Bret Hart, like, I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Tell me what you guys want. Unless Rob Van Dam says, "Well, what do you want to do?" Okay, well, let's do this, that, and the other. But otherwise, I want to hear everything that comes out of his mouth. I want to absorb everything that he's got to say. Because usually I'll wrestle young guys, and I have a lot of information in me. And sometimes they'll be like, "I want to do this, this, that, and the other," and I'll just go, "Okay." I'm not mad. I just will I'm not going to stress myself out on trying to teach anyone anything if they don't want to learn it. Let's just do your match. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I came to that point where I'm cool with it. I don't have to do my shit. I'm fine. I'll do 2 moves. So for the most part, that's how it would break down. How I call my match, always call the finish first, and we'll go over that this week. On calling a match, calling the finish first. I hope that answers your question, Alfredo. Sage Sin, last question of the day.
All right. Just trying to keep it on topic and whatnot. Just kind of looking back with a bad match that I had when I didn't really understand the difference between, a heel and a face and how you would use those moves as such and such. So I had a move with an opponent. I had a match with an opponent, and we had what we thought our match, planned out and everything. And we get to the finish, and we think we're all good, and the ref tells me, "Keep going." And I'm thinking, fuck, we just blew our load. We just did everything we had. I don't know what to do now. I wasn't savvy enough to think, what would a heel do? What would a face do? So we suddenly flipped the script, and I had my opponent, giving me heat randomly after the finish, and it was just a god-awful match. So, I mean, what I guess could have been done better for someone that wouldn't be, that wouldn't know what to do in that situation, and also, should I have used the ref better to that? Should I have looked at him and asked, how much longer do we have? Or just generally for matches, your advice on using the ref and stuff like that.
So at what point did they tell you to keep going longer? After
I
you hit
feel like it
everything?
was after. I don't remember exactly, but I swear we hit that finish and they were like, "Keep going." So it should have been obvious that was the finish, but I don't know. I just remember we completely flipped the switch afterwards because we didn't know what moves to do, where to go with it, and how a heel would, keep going and how a face would keep going with that instance.
I got to be honest, that would be probably incredibly hard. In hindsight, now that I've heard your question and thought about it for a second, um, obviously, if the ref didn't count the 3, kick out, and let's go into some more false finishes, I would ask how much longer do we have? Now it would give me an idea of what I need to do. Maybe if they say 3 minutes, I could say, "Oh man, we can go 3 more minutes on just false finishes." If they say 5 minutes, I mean, we probably could go 5 minutes just on false finishes. Really could. You just got to get creative, you know. Um, if they said any longer than that, I probably would say, "Okay, we'll just make this a false hope, and I'll go back to giving you heat. And in that heat, let's just get together and really think, what can we do? We just blew our load. Can we think of something better that we can do right now?" And so that's incredibly hard because you got your climax that's already here. Now they're telling you to go longer, and as each minute that goes by, it starts sinking, and you're feeling. And now as a wrestler, I can almost imagine what you're feeling. You're kind of panicking, like shit. It's too quiet. I gotta bring him up.
I remember my opponent going, "What do we do?" And I was like, "I don't know." It was awful.
Those are those instances that also cut your teeth, right? I like to say, I'm the wrestling school guy, because of my experiences, because I have been chanted out of the arena, "Please don't come back," by 800 people. And I'm able to tell you my experiences and why that happened because I showed up unfucking prepared and I gassed out and I gave a terrible match. So instances like these happens for you, Sage. Hey, you might not be able to get out of it, you know, 100% in a perfect match. But what it will do, it will cut your teeth, and it will never happen to you again. You'll be prepared for it. Like, let me ask you how you are now that it's already happened to you. Now I know that you're asking me what should I do. Let me ask you before I give you any answers, what would you do if that happened again?
I mean, I would have. Now I have the creative tools to have stretched that heat. Back then, I didn't know what a heel move would have been, what the difference of me being able to use my moves as a heel or a face. So all of a sudden, we just flipped. My face was giving me heat because we were just trying to stretch the match. But yeah, I would definitely stretch that heat, stretch that, get another, like you said, some falsies in there, and maybe change the finish since they already saw our finish.
Yeah, work a different body part or whatever the case is. And hey, it might be a terrible match, but all these instances that happen to you in your wrestling career on your journey is that it's like what I always tell Jake Atlas. I said, man, I know COVID happened, so you're at the best place that you could be right now because you're wrestling most often as you can. But I really wish you never got signed to NXT until 2021 rather than 2020. And the reason being is because I wish you had another year on the independent circuit to just really cut your teeth and really dig in and really discover who you are and discover what your creative tools are that you can utilize if you ever find yourself in these situations. Because now he finds himself as if he's going to be in that situation, it's going to be at NXT, and the
Right. Yeah.
spotlight is on him. So I always like to tell people, like right, I told you from the beginning, right? We fell our way to success. We do so many different things. We do so many things wrong till we get it right, until we figure it out. Right? We can shy away from those times that I never want to be in that situation again, or you can meet it head on and say, I never, ever want to be chanted out of the arena by 800 people chanting to me personally saying, don't come back. The chant is, please come back. They chanted, don't come back.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's on DVD somewhere. Jersey All Pro Wrestling versus Justice Pain. If you guys
But
want
last thing, should I have just went to that referee and been like, "Hey, ref, how much time do we have?" and then incorporated that with our finish,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, 100%. I would have said, and now he may give you an answer and said, they're just in my fucking ear saying, keep going. Just keep going until I say. Right. There was a match with Vic Grimes and Tracy Smothers at WWE, and Vic Grimes was getting his tryout. And they Vic Grimes a big fat dude, and so they wanted to know, can Vic Grimes go? And so they went out there and said, okay, you guys got an 8-minute match. Okay, cool. So they went in there and they called an 8-minute match. As soon as they got to the 8 minutes, the referee goes, keep going. Oh, fuck, keep going. Okay, and didn't tell him how much time. All right, let's keep going. Right. So then he comes back to him and go 5 more minutes. Okay, well at least we got it in time now. They go 5 more minutes. Hey, we need you to keep going. Fuck, after the first keep going, after the second keep going 5 minutes, now they keep going again. At the fourth time they finally said keep going, Tracy Smothers turns to fucking Vic Grimes and said, damn boy, who the fuck you piss off? But it's gonna happen. And a lot of times they're testing you. And it's probably like one of the worst experiences that you can go through, but as you finish it and as you get out of it and as you accomplish the goal, and you didn't sink, but you did swim, it makes you feel so much better inside, right? Just really trying to show up prepared. And that's why, like, a lot of times when we train, and this stage, when we train at Santino Brothers, it's a lot of just, let's get in there and go. Let's just go. We call it. We already know match breakdown. Let's go. Okay, well, you got to shine. And so if you're in the shine, what's next? Heat. All right, so now if you're taking heat, what's next? Come back, and then we just keep repeating it over and over and over again. Cut off, shine, heat, come back. Cut off, shine, heat, come back. You know what I mean? And then it just gets drilled into your head to where you cannot get it wrong until we have the unconscious competence. So, in pro wrestling, and that's what I want you guys to have the unconscious competence in everything that you do. So, We are 15, 16 minutes over. I do apologize. Second day. I want to keep it right on time for everybody. So that's going to close it for today. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll go ahead and post the notes, and I'll also post a video within the next 2 hours or so you guys can have it. If you have any questions, just go ahead and message me personally. Put it in the Facebook group or message us or tell us your question here on the Zoom class. So, all right, let's go ahead and bring it in. Everyone get their volumes on. Santino's on 3. Santino's on 3. 1, 2, 3. Santino!
Oh.
All right, tuning out, signing out. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
Coach. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.